Welcome back to the Long Way Back podcast. My name is Timmy Long, and today I'm joined by
Tommy Long.
Well, Tommy, that was so formal there, like Jesus Christ. You could easily just say Tommy, right? But I'm only kidding. Now today we have Anthony Breen. Anthony Breen is someone who has really got his life back together. You know, he's been to prison, there was addictions there, but now you're working for the Red Cross, and you're actually living a really fulfilled life in comparison to the one you were, and that's why we met a while back at an event up in, was it mental health reform?
That's right.
And we had a chat, and I said, lad, you know what, I think you'd be great for the podcast, and here we are. Nice to meet you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Timmy.
So what's the story? Listen, we'll just go a little bit back, Anthony, if that's okay with you. Just let people know where you grew up, you know, the dynamics of your family, growing up, education and stuff. So if you want to go right back as far as you can and just start.
Yeah, well,
Long
I suppose
time
the best way to tell a story is start at the beginning, isn't it? Yeah, so I suppose I'm from Cork.
Yeah.
My accent's kind of watered down a little bit because I've been living in the UK for a while, and you know, living in Dublin now for a few years, and out of prison, as we said. But I grew up in Glanmire, just down the road, Brook Lodge. But actually, I suppose can I go a little bit further back than that?
Of course you can.
So I was originally born in Limerick. Not many people know that.
Yeah. You have the Limerick look. Only Tommy.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
so I was born in Limerick. I'm gonna be real on this.
Yeah.
So my mum and my dad would have been, you know, caught up in violence. You know, my dad was really broken. I never really knew my dad, to be honest. Grew up one of the Connollys from Waterford.
Okay.
You know, there was a lot of brokenness in the extended family as well. And around the time that my mum was pregnant with me, but you know, there would have been a lot of domestic violence within the house. So the reason why I was born in Limerick is because my mum was actually fleeing my dad.
Yeah.
Because my dad wanted to kick me out of my mum.
Yeah. That's tough, boy.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
And that would be no reflection of you or your mum. That would be probably mental health and not lack of, but just no awareness, really.
And like, I'd like to look at it compassionally as well.
100,000,000%, because you have to, Anthony.
Yeah, because like my dad, I don't think if he knew
better,
he would have done better.
100,000,000%.
And I forgive him.
Yeah.
I forgive him. Do you know, he was a really broken man, and do you know, I kind of I'll carry on. So my mum was in Limerick then, in Limerick, St. Munchin's Hospital. And then I was born in St. Munchin's Hospital, 12th of January 1992. I was a couple of 6 weeks premature, and I remember my mum, she'll always remind me of this story, because I was unwell. Do you know, I was unwell as a baby, and my mum, she walked into the nearest place where she could find to pray. My mum wasn't a religious woman, no. Yeah. She was just crying out like, save my son. Do you know, and she walked into the chapel in St. Munchin's Hospital, and as she walked in there, she seen, it was the only statue in there, but it was a statue of St. Anthony. Jeez. And she says, if you save my son, I'll call him after you.
Powerful. That's powerful, but that's a lovely story.
Yeah. So, and then, and you can imagine the relationship between me and my mum is it's quite special, you know. Yeah. I'm her firstborn, and you know, she's been through a lot as well. But anyways,
we also put them through a lot, do you know, in our madness.
Absolutely. The patience of a saint my mother had, honestly, and the unconditional love that is characteristic of a mother. Do you know, and just
only a mother could give it, I think.
Only,
do you know?
Only to me.
I think so. And I look at my own wife with my son, and Jesus Christ, I get jealous of their relationship.
It's the family relationship. But like then, like I was born, as I said, January 1992. My mum ended up falling pregnant again. My mum ended up going back to Waterford. We spent 4 years there. But like I have a younger sister, Maria. She was born in Waterford. But my mum got back, and like, as you can imagine, the relationship between my mum and dad was very, very, very like toxic and very violent as well at times. And my dad, like he would have grown up, you know, in prison. It's like he served 10 years for manslaughter, in the UK, and like this is what, as a young boy.
You see what you're saying here at the moment is fucking so important. To give people a description of how it was, because, and I always reiterate this, people have, everybody has such a different life, and people look at their life as an, oh, how could somebody do that? You know, because some people grow up and they have a different life to what we grew up in. You know, and there's plenty of love. There's no poverty. You know, there's possibly minimal bullying in school as it is. You know, kids or whatever. Yeah. But there's time as well from the parents. You know, and people grow up then to be different in comparison to somebody who grows up in violent home, poverty, you know, not knowing where the next meal is coming from, confrontation, conflict in the house is dealt with, violence like that, you know, drug addiction, all forms of addiction, mental health issues, and we have to look towards that. And what you're saying to us there now at the moment is, and we'll start understanding later on in your story why things panned out the way they did.
Yeah.
I'm not here justifying your actions or making excuses for my actions or anybody else's actions who's been to prison or anything like that. I'm just saying, maybe just look at this side of the story before anybody picks out that judgment on somebody else, not based on even knowing where they've came from or what they had to go through in life, you know?
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you, Timmy. And it is like, even being able to share this, and because like I grew up without a voice as a young boy, because I was so traumatized, and that's what we're speaking. And it's not that like my trauma excuses my behavior, not at all. Do you know, it's my trauma influenced what my behavior when I was a child, and it's. And I remember I read a quote recently, like, trauma is not what happened to you. Trauma is the scar that's left because of what happened to you. Do you know what I mean? And I didn't understand this as a child. Like, I thought I was different. I thought that I was an outcast. Like, I grew up, like, coming from Waterford at 4 years of age, my mum fleeing my dad, coming up into Cork, and we moved around. We were in Mayfield, Blackpool. You know, we were all over. We were all over Cork, like.
My mum was,
because my mum was trying to find home.
Yeah.
You know, she was trying to find a home for her 2 babies, like. You know, and
that must have been difficult for your mother.
Imagine that. Like, she always shares a story about the two of us, and she, you know, she'd have one of us on one side of her and the other when we were little baby trying to feed us.
Yeah.
Like, imagine that as a single
What was
mother.
between you? A year between you?
9 months.
9
My
months.
sister was 3 months premature. Fuck. Yeah, and that had obviously effects on her well-being, her mental well-being as well. You know, and like, it was just really. You asked the question about, you know, what was it like for you in your household, and like, it was very challenging, Timmy. It was very challenging because I naturally, like, I would have been sensitive, insecure, broken. I would have been very shy, and like, when growing up my household, like, I didn't know, like, I didn't have the social skills, you know, to be making friends, because we moved around so much.
Yeah.
And like we ended up like getting put into care as well. I was about 8 years old. Like, that really influenced my whole perception of authority.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I remember, and I don't mind sharing it. I really don't mind sharing it with you guys. And like, I can remember I was about 8 or 9, and we ended up getting put into care, you know, taken away from my mum. You know, I was really like, and my mum was my mum, like,
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? She was my mum and my dad.
Yeah, she was everything.
She was everything to me, and she was the person I loved. I adored my mother. Do you know what I mean? And when we got put into care, like, I didn't understand the why.
Yeah.
I just seen that there was these social workers coming, put us into care, and I remember being inside a room. I remember so vividly. I remember being because it left such a mark on me. I remember being inside a room, and I remember it was like this big formal, it was a big corporate building. I know it's a social welfare or social worker office, and I remember being in there, and my mum was sitting down, you know, having her visit at the time with us, and, you know, she was, you know, I'd love for you to come home with me.
I know.
I'd love for you to come home with me. You know, she was
tough,
really bearing her heart with me, and like inward, like me as a little boy. So I remember this broken little boy that is craving love, is craving affection, and then next thing, social workers are taking me away from her. I remember they brought us out into the car to take us away, and I'll never forget it. So vivid picture, guys. Like I remember being in the back of that car and turning around the back seat, like something you see in a movie, like.
Yeah.
And I remember just crying, and my water just flowing from my eyes. You know, like getting taken away from my mum, and she was crying.
Yeah.
I don't want you. Do you know? It was just
That's fucking
And I be honest,
tough,
like
man.
I didn't understand that as a child, and like as a child, like I didn't have. So you can imagine growing up in a household. You know, my mum, she done the best she could, but the stress of, as you said, you know, growing up, but you know, trying to pay bills, trying to put clothes on your two kids, trying to provide, you know, food for them, trying to get them the best clothes. But you know the way it is in Irish culture. Yeah. Do you know, like everything it's a consumer society, and it's all about what you have and, do you know, and what you don't have. And I can remember, like, just, you know, trying to connect as a child was so challenging
with other people.
Yeah,
I can
it
relate
was
to that.
really, really challenging.
You didn't trust anyone.
I didn't
either,
trust
I think.
I didn't trust anyone. I didn't feel like I could let anyone in, because anyone I'd ever let in my perception back then was they've hurt me.
Yeah.
Do you know,
Or else they left you.
or else they've left me. And that was it. That was one of the core beliefs, you know, that I had to deal with particularly when I was in treatment, was like, you know, that the people that say they love me, like I didn't trust them because they've always walked away from me. And you know what? It's even empty promises.
Yeah.
Do you know that there's one memory I have of my dad? One memory. And that was, I remember I was inside my granny's house in Waterford. I must have been only 3 or 4. I remember I had a little like bag of dinkies, as they call them.
Remember the old dinkies? Them dinkies, fucking, they got us through a lot back in the day.
Yeah.
The dinkies then turned into real cars when we were about 13 and 14.
But I can remember, right? I remember being on the phone to my dad. He was in prison at the time, and I remember my granny. I was the apple on my granny's eye. Like I was the baby's baby. Like the Connollys in Waterford, like, and the Halligans in the Mourns. There's hundreds of them, and I was the baby.
Yeah.
So I mean, for my nanny back when I was in Waterford, like I was the golden child. She spoiled me rotten, do you know. And I think that was, I think that might have been even a wound, do you know, losing my grandmother.
Yeah, it's tough, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because she called for me, do you know, and when she was dying, like, and, do you know, she called for me, and my mum said, do you know, when she was dying, do you know, because obviously she's holding herself and stuff, but I didn't smell any of that. I just it's my nanny. Do you know what I mean? And
Jeez.
yeah, and but just even with that, like, I can remember my dad on the phone to me in my grandmother's house, and he said, "Anthony, yeah, Dad, do you want a Power Rangers bike?" Yeah. Of course, little child, all excited. I'll get you a Power Rangers bike, son.
Still waiting on that bike. You know, the promises by that fucking rip you apart, aren't they?
That rip you apart.
That happens a lot.
That's the wound. That's
they're
like,
deep ones.
They're the deep ones.
The baitings, they come and go. You get used to the baitings. But it's the emotional stuff that leaves the really, really strong energy trapped in the body.
And I think that's what we're talking about today, to me, is emotional trauma. I think that's what we're talking about. And
it's deeper than any scar that you have on the surface.
Yeah. And again, like we said, the trauma isn't that, it's what was left over, the residue.
Yeah.
The residue of the emotional.
And emotional trauma is like, you can do all the therapy in the world, but if it's so instilled into the depth of your bones and your core, it's so hard to change. Like, you know, the trust stuff with people, you know, the belief that people are they're just going to come and go, you know, or even around yourself. Your self-worth, you know, your whether you're good or you're bad, whether you're thick or you're smart, you know, all these things they're instilled into us as young kids.
Absolutely.
And they're so hard to change. Like, can
I add something to that?
Yeah.
We were in South Africa recently. The conversation's just flowing, isn't it? We were in South Africa recently, and I was over there, and, you know, obviously the father wound is really poignant with me. And like being over in South Africa, you know, you see a lot of, you know, you see a lot of orphans, you see a lot of kids, a lot of brokenness. And there's a ministry over there called The World Needs a Father. And it's by a guy called Cassie Carstens. So he's looking at the void that's being left from the lack of fathers in children's lives. And it's just as you kind of were talking there to me, you kind of brought something back for me. And he was saying, you know, as a child is growing up, because that feeling good enough, that feeling that you're enough, that feeling that, okay, I'm capable, that feeling that I'm able, do you know, that I'm not a bad person, do you know, that affirmation, and being starved of that. Like one of the things that Cassie was saying in his book, The World Needs a Father, he says, like, there's a void. Oh man, do I know what that void feels like? There's a father void. Do you know, that was a father void in my life. I could identify what he was saying. That, like, I didn't have a dad when I was growing up before 5, 6 years of age. Do you know, when I was struggling, do you know, with school, or if I was struggling with one of my relationships with my friends socially. And, you know, I'd no one to talk to try and process that or express how I was feeling, or, you know, to voice it. So I didn't have any emotional intelligence. But more than that, it's that, like, the role of a father in affirming your kids almost affirms identity. Do you know, like, that, son, you are capable. You are enough. That's good enough.
Yeah.
So just hearing that as a child, because as a child, I know that, but the way my brain works, and mental health, and even as a child, I think I suffer from mental health even as a child.
Yeah.
That's being honest.
Yeah, definitely.
And I really do believe that even in the midst of that, even in the midst of my childhood, do you know, I was craving for a dad. Like, that's really what, because something inside me was longing for that affirmation. Something inside me was longing for security. Something inside me was longing for a sense of identity and belonging.
Or even just a hug.
A hug. Thanks, Timmy.
A fucking hug.
A hug.
And just put the arm around you
Yeah.
and just tell you how good you are at playing your football game, or
Man,
you know, like that you're kicking the ball right, or you're able to, like, I remember getting out of prison, and being a father to me was so abnormal. I hadn't a clue, because we grew up without a father as well, you know, and we could never accept any of my mother's boyfriends then as a father figure, because we knew that they weren't our biological father, and our father had been to prison and all that stuff as well, and we looked up at that stuff as well, you know. We wanted him because he was, you know. But I remember and this Martha was about 5 or 6, and I take him out. I bought him this little bike with staplers in it, and he was full of fear. So I draw him up the bike, and I said, go on, cycle away now. And he'd be cycling away. And next I started taking off the staplers and full of fear, like, and I'd push him without the staplers. Go on now, cycle away. You know, and just towards the end of it, after a few weeks, he actually started to, and the little smile and the laugh on his face, that gave me some fucking feeling internally. I felt like I was really accomplishing something within my own life with my kids. You know, I could feel what it's really like to have a bond with a child. You know, these are things that I would have never experienced, because our mother was very unwell as well growing up. We didn't really experience it either with the mother or father. We knew both of them loved us, and they weren't able to give us what we needed. You know, and going back to that, there's no one to blame. No one to blame. I don't blame anybody. Early on in my life, I would have blamed everybody, but you learn that there's no growth in blaming other people.
That's right.
You know, so I can completely relate to that. You know, I think it's important as well.
As you said there a while ago, when you know better, you do better.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's
And that's so true, yeah.
very touchy subject,
Father.
talking about parents, isn't it?
Yeah,
You know,
it is.
like having no father, like, as Timmy said, we didn't either, you know? And I'm really sitting with my emotions here, you know, and I'm feeling it, and it's like, fuck yeah.
But even, like, it's so, and because even as you're talking, you're like, is it okay to talk about this?
Yeah.
Do you know, like, that's what you're inwardly, is it okay? Do you know, but it is okay.
100%, yeah.
It is okay, because we're having a conversation, and there's a freedom in that, I think, and there's a power that comes with your truth, and, you know, being honest and sharing your story, do you know, and voicing that.
But there's no other way, Anthony.
Yeah.
Like, there is no other way of doing what we're doing right.
Yeah.
But just being honest. and speaking from where it's coming from. You don't have to think about talking like this. It just comes from a place, and sometimes you say, oh, Jesus Christ, where's that? It's coming from your heart.
Coming from your heart.
Do you know,
you said it.
coming from the place where it needs to be spoken about. And what that does then, and the reason we do this podcast is it shows other people that it's okay. Do you remember, right, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, 50 years ago, this country couldn't express emotion. There wasn't a fault. We could not share emotion. None. And that was even growing up for me. Don't cry, you fall. Get up. Get up, what are you, little girl? Get up off the floor and stop crying. You know? Yeah. That was instilled in us as kids.
Back then, there wouldn't be many hugs or, you know.
But like,
it's only this day and age that it's like that that parents are understanding kids. You know,
do you know?
You fail, get up and fall properly and all that kind of stuff.
Do you know what's important as well? And I think we need to recognise this as well. We're so blessed, okay, all of us here in the room, that we grew up in the era we did. Can you imagine growing up in the 20s or 30s or 40s in this country, or the 50s or 60s, or even the 80s? Like, I grew up in the 80s and it was difficult. But you have to look at it. When we look at stuff that has happened to us in our own lives, make sure you look at the people, your parents as well, and have a look at what they had to go through. Like, can you understand now maybe why, like, they did probably act in different ways? Like, they were fucking traumatized, like.
Yeah, and you just, wow, like, even just hearing what you're saying there, I remember, like, my mum used to be telling me stories about, you know, my dad's household, you know, my granddad's, like, he was staunch, like, staunch Irishman, you know. And I remember, like, she used to say, do you know, he used to come in to eat his dinner. Like, he'd come in from work, you know, my grandmother would have the food on the table, he'd go in to sit down to have his dinner. And next thing, you know, any one of the kids that went into the sitting room when he's in there eating his dinner, he'd get up and walk out and not eat his dinner. So there was this kind of, like, just this real hard, kind of strict, like, complete. Yeah. Can you see what I?
Don't
like,
go in there.
Don't go in there. Like, like, children aren't to be heard or seen. You
I'm
know
going to tell you something, right? Because I can validate that. 100. Remember my nan's house years ago? My Uncle Sean would come in from work. We weren't even left into the front room. I'd be inside in the front room. I'd be drooling from the mouth, looking at your man with a plate that height off the floor. And I like that then, a small little skinny fucker, and I starving. And I looking at this fella, and a load of natural real butter put over his potatoes and all that, and he with the remote control in his hand. God, you know, poor old creator. I used to, when I look back at my old self, you know what I mean? But I can relate to it. No, again, there's no, and it just goes to show too, the women back then, they were some fucking women, like, they looked after the house, the kids, the grandkids, they looked after everything. They were a different breed.
Don't make them like that no more.
They do, Tommy.
That's
but,
tough.
But they do, but women are a lot smarter today. Women believe in their self-worth today more than they did before. They believed it. Before they just believed that it was their job was the house. It's my belief is women by a fucking spectacular. Amazing. I think women by, I'd be fucked without the women in my life. My wife, literally, I would not be sitting on this chair if I didn't have something to look at in life.
Let's be honest. Can we be honest? Like, look in my life, probably like, my mother's the only one that's still there for me now. Mothers are faithful. Like, they will not get up and walk away from their kids. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like, even but my dad like we spoke about, you know, wanting to kick me out of my mother's room from birth, to, you know, not being there when and broken promises as I was growing up. Do you know, to when I had that longing within my heart, you know, to be like my dad, and you know, because in your head your dad is the model of what a man looks like. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? So, like, I grew up without a dad, and even though I had a stepdad, it wasn't the same.
Never completely.
It wasn't the same. Complete, because you're not my dad. Yeah. And I think that there's this identity thing, you know, that comes with your biological father. You know, that he's your natural aspiration, your natural vision of what your life is going to look like,
and what you should be.
And isn't it interesting, right? Like, what you should be, right? Check this out. So, like, remember I was saying about my dad done 10 years for manslaughter. Now this is the biological, because like my mum, think of the social aspect here, right? My mum took us out of Waterford, away from my family in Waterford. Now they're all caught up in crime. You know, some of them are doing life sentences, others were doing like long sentences, same as myself, for violence. And my mum brought us to Cork to get us away from all that, and I'm so grateful that she did. But at the same time, I grew up in Glanmire, as I said, and like even from a young child, like being inside, we were inside a school at Island, and I was so troubled, you know, being after, because I was at been in care. I grew up without, and always had this longing for my dad, so I was angry. And it was deep, and I'll be honest with you, it was unforgiveness towards my dad for not being there for me.
Yeah.
And because he was never there, I felt I could never resolve that unforgiveness. So I always had this deep resentment towards the world and a hatred towards people. Because as you said...
relate to that. I can fucking completely relate to it.
And I remember, like, even in primary school, like, what 7 or 8 year old child, you know, gets in an argument that's so emotionally imbalanced that picks up a scissors and cuts another child's ear in first class.
Yeah.
That's not normal.
Yeah, no, it's not. But today we know.
Yeah,
right?
we know.
If that
exactly.
happens,
Yeah.
there's something going on there for the child. Like,
Yeah.
you know.
But
and if their child is cutting themselves at that age, 6 or 7,
Yeah.
and if they're contemplating taking their own life,
Yeah.
same shit. Like,
Yeah, and let's give the systems and the structures in place now. Let's give them a bit of credit as well, because we can be aware of these
and we're
things.
still learning too, aren't we?
And we're still learning, exactly. We don't have it, and this is the thing. It's about being human, and connecting with our humanness. Do you know what I mean? That's what life is all about.
Yeah, and we're learning as we're going.
Yeah.
Like, there's no one shoe fits all,
Yeah.
as the saying goes. We have to figure out what's right for each individual person. Because there's so many, like, when you look at what's going on today around autism, you know, ADHD, you know, we're really, really only at the edge of the iceberg in relation to this stuff. We're learning so much. Now, the services that are there are absolutely brilliant, and the people that are working within these services are fucking fantastic. But then again, do we have enough of them? No, we don't. And that's whose fault is that? I'm not going to say it's anybody's fault. I just think we need to learn that we need more services quickly. We need to get people in different roles. We need to throw more money at it, because families are, mothers and fathers are out there, and they're doing their absolute best to be able to guide their kids who have different stuff going on for them in the best way they can. But the supports aren't probably always there, you know, and there needs to be supports there for people, which is tough, because we have the neurodiverse section of the podcast as well, and a lot of this stuff comes up. We don't have enough of experts or are just good people in these fields to be able to do the job efficiently, because they're so overweight and overworked that they can't work properly. Like, when you look at the adult ADHD stuff, we have fucking organisations going online selling assessments, you know, and medication to people for £1,000, okay, for a 20-minute assessment. And they're being given medication then put into it. These people don't give 2 fucks about you. Literally. I know if you're struggling, you just want to get the assessment done and get the medication to see do they help or benefit your life. But trust me, if you're not getting the right care off these people, they don't give 2 fucks about you, your child, anybody else. They care about their bank balance at the end of the week. No, this isn't everybody, okay? There are some organisations, ADHD Ireland, renowned autism groups within Ireland. You go to them, go to their websites, they will recommend, or else they'll point you towards somebody that will be good, give a good report, really analyse the adult or the child in relation to what they really need and be beneficial for them. But we've these other organisations, and I'm not going to name them, okay? But they will rip you completely apart financially, and they will take your money, and they will fuck off and not answer your emails and anything like that. And the people behind them don't give an absolute bollocks about you. And that's the truth. We need, what's the right word? We need a regulator in here to watch. These companies can start up a fucking online assessment for ADHD. You don't need nothing. there's no regulator there to see if people are actually getting assessments or not. And the only thing you have is reviews for the company afterwards. Don't ask me where I'm going with this stuff, no, but it's important if anyone is listening with it. You know, that their child, you get the right assessment, you get the right report. Yeah. And if there's medication involved, make sure the titration of the medication is working.
Yeah.
You know?
I think I know, I can see where you're kind of going. Like, what I'm hearing is, like, we need to be supporting young people.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I'm, like, really, I'm finding out what their need, like, what are their needs. Because, and I think that's the failing system, isn't it? That's in some ways. Do you know what I mean? And like you said, we are trying, we're learning.
Definitely learning.
Yeah, do you know we are, but like even as a young fella, from my own personal experience, like, because remember I grew up so emotionally, I was so numb emotionally, do you know, like numb. I didn't know, like all I knew was anger and happy, like that. I think that was it. That was the extent of my emotional literacy.
Yeah, do you know
what I mean? Yeah. No, sorry. I'm all right. That's a shout out there. Do you know, I'm all right. Like, but that was how I identified how I was feeling, and like, even when, like, as I said, when I was in primary school and those situations, and the violence was escalating in degree and nature all the way through up into primary school, up into my teenage years, and like, I didn't feel that like there was any supports or, you know, but it was easier for people to point the finger at me, like, and I'm not saying, you know where I come from, like, it's not to say that like people thought, he's a bad person, but it was just problematic behavior, just avoid. Do you know what I mean? Get away from him. Do you know what I mean? And don't get me wrong, I was very unpredictable and my childhood was very chaotic. Yeah. I will hold my hands up and take responsibility for that. And I caused a lot of harm to a lot of people that today I'm deeply sorry for.
Yeah.
Do you know, and
you can see it.
And like even going into secondary school, it was only it was only when I went into secondary school after doing a test that I realised, you know, that I was actually a bright young fella. Like, do you know, like I had no idea. I had no idea going through like primary school. I just thought I was a troubled kid, do you know, that was violent and, you know, I was just harming. Because remember this inwardly, I want to hurt, anger. I hate the world. I hate everyone. Like, I didn't like myself. Ultimately, I did not like who I was. That was my perception of who I was.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because what was going on in my head was not nice, and I just wanted to get out of it. And this was set the perfect scene for the addiction.
Yeah.
Absolutely set the perfect scene, because I didn't know how to socialize. I didn't know, like I didn't know how to interact with others really. I was so shy, so introverted. Do you know, and when I'd be inside school, do you know, like the only escape I had was, you know, was classes, and then putting up your hand, and then you're being labelled, you know, a SWAT or a. Do you get what I? No, we're laughing because we know
I never called it SWAT anyway.
No, but we know the connotations that come with that.
Yeah. Oh,
it's like a less than,
100%.
like, and check this, right? So, like, because I was so insecure, remember, and as a young fella, this is even more magnified, as if you're looking through the magnifying glass, because all your peers now, I want to try fit in with them.
Yeah.
Because they're going to show me what being a man looks like.
Yeah.
You probably nodding your heads at me. You probably identify. But like they're going to show me what a man looks like, because I didn't have a dad, and even my stepdad at the time, when I hit 14, my mum and my stepdad split up, and I have a younger brother, Nathan, that like is a product of that relationship, like, and even going, like, so when they split up, like, it was just, now remember, it's bringing back all the
stuff when you're older, bigger,
and I didn't understand. I did not understand that how could you as a child? How could you understand that is bringing back up about my dad? It's bringing back up about all those broken relationships, the trust issues, you know, broken problem, and all that shame and guilt, and then you internalize it and you think it's all your fault.
How we actually dealing with it? Like, I came across fucking substances at a young age.
Yeah.
Like petrol. Gas.
Yeah.
Like, what age were you when things like that would have came into your life?
Yeah,
and you
so
noticed that you could get out of your head in that way.
It was petrol as well. Let's be honest, petrol. I remember in Brooklodge in Glanmire, I remember there was an ESB tent up in the Mucky Mountains, it was called. And it wasn't mountains, no, it was just plains, but those, because they were little dunes that are about the size of this room, we thought, because we were small, these are mountains. But and I remember going up into this ESB tent, and we had a gallon of petrol there, and Do you know, we'd be all up there buzzing petrol. And bless my mum, I got caught one day. I got caught one day. I was inside, and you know, my mum can't smell because of injury, brain, you know, head injuries from when, you know, when with my dad and stuff like that. So that's one of the long term things that she can't smell. But it wasn't the smell. Obviously, she couldn't smell the petrol. But she came up and she seen my lips were all burnt. Over buzzing the petrol, like the fumes.
I came home one day in primary school.
Yeah.
Came home from being on the hop.
On the hop, yeah.
With fucking red nail varnish all over my lips. No, little did I know that the fucking principal was after being over in the house as well, because we were notorious for going on the hop. And I won't go into it, no, but I was a sorry boy after that. Let me tell you one thing. I was sorry. Oh, it didn't stop me though. It kept going, you know. But like, how did your
how did it escalate?
Teens
So it was always meeting a need in me, Timmy. It was always trying to meet a need. So like it was alcohol first. Like the minute I found alcohol, I thought I was after winning the lotto. Honestly, because I was like, I'm after finding the answer to all my problems in this. I remember this, you know, this real lightness and just that getting out of your head. You know, just that escape just for those few moments. And I remember thinking, this is the best feeling ever. Do you know, I couldn't even name the feeling. But this is the best feeling ever. And you know, it just really kind of gave me I think we call it Dutch courage, Dutch confidence. Dutch courage, confidence, whatever we call it. It's been so long since I said it. But I remember, see, once I started then, like once I got that taste, once I got the taste for it, that was it. Just started drinking more and more and more. And at the start, there was no problems. There was no problems. Everything was amazing. You know, like you were going out and, you know, it was meeting that need. I was out, you know, socialising with other people. I was able to go out and have a laugh. And then after a while then, you know, it started getting problematic. And where it started getting problematic first was when the next day is when my anxiety would kick in.
Were you getting any blackouts or anything like
that? Yeah. And that's what was causing a lot of the anxiety, is because firstly I was thinking, what am I after been doing the night before?
Yeah.
And then you probably identify with this, lads. It's when people are telling you what you did the night before.
Horrible.
You're lucky there was no mobile phones back then. We're lucky too.
Imagine.
Like
fucking phones,
and then all you hear is you.
Or else you're covered in blood.
No.
Yeah, or else you're exactly.
Blood, and you're saying, or else your mother's standing by the door and she's looking at you saying, or else you're inside yourself covered in fucking in a white suit or whatever. Or just naked, and that was the reality of it.
How you're there. Waking up. But he said there are no clothes. And you're like, oh,
yeah. But even like an emotional side of it as well, and like I remember waking up and, you know, you'd be because I'm so shy and so introverted. Do you know, when people start telling you what you were doing the night before and you're like, oh, I didn't do that, did I? Do you know, because it's so out of character. Do you see hear where I'm coming from? It's so out of character. And then I started kind of resenting the fact, like, oh, what are you doing? Why are you doing that? But then it was mad because I was cutting this like I'll be honest, my addiction took off very quick. Like, it accelerated very quickly, like, and because I was trying to meet the emotion, like where I was lacking, you know, my confidence, and find it in the drink, you know, and then I'd get less and less confident in the drink, and then it was starting to get more and more angry. Because I was starting to resent who I was, and then I was losing more and more control. It was just this chaotic
mad fucking
man, I was just caught up in this completely unmanageable. Completely.
Was school still a part of your life? This period?
Well, it just coming to the end of it. So like I hit 14, and then by 15 I lost complete interest, because again my stepdad, like as you were saying earlier, you know, he brought me to boxing a few times, you know, brought me hurling, but I just never stuck at anything. I could never stick at sports. To this day, I still don't even know. Maybe I have to do a bit more work. Look at that. But
some people just have no interest in them.
Perhaps that.
I never had interest in sport.
But I love football. This is the thing.
You love the old Jack and horses, though. That's sport.
If you want to call robbing horses a sport.
Oh God, you could call it fucking a lot more than that. You could call it putting a challenge on your life. Like, if you were ever fucking looking to maybe get killed. Because if I caught you robbing horses, I would have fucking killed you. Probably ended up did too. Probably I'd say you did a few times. Did you know me?
I hurt a few times, all right. Yeah. Look, that's another podcast.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
stop.
for another day, isn't it? Isn't it, Tom?
That's there's a limit on that one, I'd say.
No, I didn't really. Once or twice.
Yeah.
I remember I went in over the ditch one night and woke up. What the fuck happened? So they were waiting for me by boom. Sparked me out. One of the boys was with me. He told me what happened there afterwards. I didn't even see it coming, but
Wow.
yeah.
Wow.
That didn't stop me either.
Wow. You didn't stop, yeah.
No.
Identify. I'm going to share. You're after inspiring something, bringing something up for me that I'm going to share. But it's the first time I'm going to publicly share, because I've done a bit of work around it, so I'm okay to share. But just as you're talking there about, you know, being here, I remember this was a real defining moment in my childhood, and I can remember. I was after when the drink now was starting to kind of really get, you know, I was getting really just becoming a problem. Do you know what I mean? Like my behaviour, I was becoming a danger to myself and everyone else. And I remember I was about 16 at the time, and now at the time as well, I was at the leaving school, like getting expelled in 15 because I was getting, you know, physically or like I was getting verbally abusive towards teachers, and like they were like the teachers walking. Even looking back now, like, what was I up there?
Yeah.
Do you know, like teachers walking out of the classroom, you know, crying because, you know, you're up there and you're calling them names because of, you know, physical features and stuff like. That's where I was, you know, like I was a real problem. Like I just
Well,
think,
great awareness there, Anthony, about how fucking how apologetic and how wrong you were back then. Like, you know, that's
and I don't look back like condemning myself. Like I don't do that either. Like it's just understanding where the harm I caused to other people. Do you know? Like that's what I'm looking at.
Yeah.
Do you know? And it's I look back and like the trouble and just how unpredictable I was, and you know, no wonder people didn't want to be around me.
Yeah.
That's, you know, because I was a nightmare.
Yeah.
I was a nightmare. Like, look, if you ask me today, right, do you want to go back and sit in the room with him? Not a chance.
It's like listening to my own story, Tommy.
Yeah. But I said all that to say it. So I was getting expelled from school, and a neighbour ended up, he was working in a place called Crowley Engineering, metal fabricators. And I was doing really well in metalwork in school. I thought that this is it. This is, you know, my break. So I lost interest in school. Like, even though I was bright, I was one of the like top of my. I was in second highest class in GCC. Like flew through my junior cert, left every test after half an hour. I still got like 5 Bs. Do you know, just naturally
Smartly.
Yeah. But I just had no interest. I was like, this isn't something I can see for me going forward. And I ended up getting an apprenticeship, you know, started getting into that really because I was making a few bob as well. So it was starting to fund the alcohol now every weekend, and then eventually the coke a few years later. Yeah. But I remember I was about 15 at the time, and Brook Lodge Housing Estate, I had an argument with my sister outside the shop at the time. It's Applegreen now. At the time it was Top Garage, I think. Yeah. We're talking years ago now. And I remember I had an argument with my sister, and I ended up so I did slab of 24 cans down the woods in Brook Lodge. You just reminded me what you said about this. But I ended up walking down to get, because I was really drunk. I says, I need to go down, get the rest of my cans. You know, F the world, and you know, I don't care about anyone else. I just want to go down and finish. This is what I was thinking in my head. And I remember walking down, but I remember my uncle at the time was like, you know, go and teach him a lesson. Do you know what I mean? And as I'm walking down, I'm going to be vivid with this now. I remember walking down into the woods, like, drunk, and I remember walking down, and I remember picking up my slab of cans. And next thing, whatever way I got up and turned around, one of the lads turned around,
Your belt.
gave me a punch, and like I was not expecting it, like, but it wasn't just the punch, like it leveled me, because obviously I turned around and like I hit the woods as well in Brook Lodge is like that. So when he hit me, I started rolling. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? But when I stood back up, I realised that there was about 20 people there.
Jeez.
Do you know what I mean? There was about 20 people there. I'm going somewhere with this. And I remember standing back up, and you know, they all started laying into me. These are all the lads from the housing estate. They were supposed to be my mates, like. Do you know what I mean? And they all started lettering into me, punching me, and no, I'm bleeding, you know, and like as stubborn as I am, I would not stay down. Like that's how stubborn I was as a young fella. Like, do you know what I mean? Just really damaged and broken and hardened. Do you know what I mean? Like, you're not going to keep me down, and do you know, this is the attitude. Like, do you know what I mean? I'll show ye, and do you know, there was just that rage and that hatred was fueling me more so than nothing else. And they kept punching me. Then I was on the ground, and do you know, I was getting kicked on, and I remember they ended up bringing me over. I don't know if you know Brook Lodge, but underneath the Dublin Bridge. Do you know the Dublin Bridge? Is it, do you know the exit whenever you're coming out of Glanmire? Do you know the Dublin Bridge there?
Yeah.
And Glanmire is just underneath that. There's like a river, and then you have like, there's a bit of like green land there.
Yeah.
And so I was under there, and you know, I'm absolutely beat to a pulp here. Like, do you know what I mean? And I remember standing up in the last thing, and I started laying into one of the lads, and do you know, we both ended up hitting the floor. I had nothing left. And I remember, I'll never forget it. My mum came down and sat on my face to stop them from kicking the head out of me. Like, it was serious. Like, everyone was having a go at me. It was just like talking about like humiliating, talking about fear, talking about like honest, and like, do you know what my attitude was? When I came up out of that woods? Because the guards were called, ambulance, everything was called. Like I was after getting really beat up bad down that woods. I thought it was normal. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? For years I thought that happens to people. Mm-hmm. And I remember coming up out of that woods, and the guards asked me what happened. And we all live by this code, don't we?
Yeah.
We all live by this code, and that robs us of our voice and robs us of justice. And do you know what I said? I fell.
Yeah.
But that's what you do, bro.
Yeah. I fell. Mm-hmm. And do you know what happened after that? I went back up into my mother's house and did not leave the house for 2 weeks. Mm. Do you know why? Because I was riddled with fear and anxiety. Afraid to walk outside the door. Mm. Oh, think of it. These people that really are, like, badly assaulted me. Like, I can't go outside the door because they're going to attack me again. Do you know, I'm helpless. I'm powerless over this if they attack me again. Even how much I tried down that woods to fight back, it was nowhere near enough because there's too many of them. Mm. Like, my mental health, that really caused a lot of...
Yeah. And you were young that age, 15, 16.
15, 16. And to me, it was only after years when I was in treatment, I kind of processed it a little bit more. Yeah. Who do you call when something like that happens to you? Mm. Who do you call? Who would you call to me? If I got let's be like honest, if you're 15, 16 years of age, put yourself in that. If who would you call?
If I'm going to be honest, I'd probably call someone that I knew close to me to come up, and I'd fucking kill someone. Like.
Yeah. Your mates, yeah?
Yeah.
You probably agree?
Yeah.
What happens if it's your mates are the ones that have done it?
Yeah. I'd kill them still. I'd still kill them individually, one by one.
But you understand? No, you have it.
That's the way it was back then, yeah.
Now this is what was in my heart.
Because I was used to being singled out, like what you're saying. I was used to being on my own. Yeah. Tommy would have been more kind of in the clique, because Tommy would have been more extroverted.
I hung around with the older fellas.
Yeah. Right.
You know, so.
I would have been fighting the older fellas then that he was hanging around with because of the shit that they were getting him to do. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's why
But it is what you're talking, like, it's that fear and just being scared and feeling unsafe.
And even it just added to everything else.
Everything else
about people.
And do you know after that, and this is what I'm saying about, I don't know if defining's the right word, but maybe shaped me a little bit.
Fucking course.
Do you know what I mean? Shaped me a little bit. And now there was already all the residue of everything else. And then this just really added fuel to the fire, for a figure of speech. And like, I remember every time I would drink after this, like, my addiction escalated hundredfold after this. Ran to the coke then, you know, because I didn't want to be getting caught unawares.
Yeah.
You know, with the drink, you know, you're drinking a bit too much because of the blackouts and stuff. I'd have a bit of sniff then, do you know what I mean? Oh, do you know, this will sober me up. I don't want to get caught in the hot by the boys again.
On your toes, like.
I want to be on your toes. Do you know what I'm saying? Tell me.
What comes with the sniff too is this false fucking...
yeah.
You become...
Invincible.
Super viable.
Yeah.
Super viable.
You think you're invincible, exactly. And like, and that really characterized like my years between like 16 to 18. It was like the drink and the sniff, and then, you know, like I get in arguments every single weekend. I'd be drinking, I'd be getting violent, inwardly I'm trying to get back at the lads that assaulted. That's inwardly what's happening, and I don't care who it is. I was so reckless and so, like, honestly, reckless isn't even the word. I didn't care who I was hurting, like, and that's being honest. See my inhibitions, the things that says it's right or wrong. When I used to drink, that was gone, like.
Were you getting arrested much?
Yeah. Public orders all the time, like all the time. Like
when you're young like that, you only stop them when you're taking the coke, like.
Yeah, they quieting up, and that's why I thought I'm winning with the coke, because I'm like, I'm not getting into as much trouble now because I'm a bit more sober.
What age were you then? About 17?
17, yeah, and then I ended up, I'm going to go into this. So when we were all 17 as well, back in 2009 in Brooklodge, I don't know, there was a massive, let's talk about mental health a little bit, will we? And just even like 2009, there was a lot of it, like this addiction around tablets and coke within our area. In Glanmire was real prevalent, and alcohol, tablets and coke.
But let's move forward a small bit, and just let's no, we're not here going talking about fucking why people go to prison or anything like that. That's not what this podcast is about. But we're here to talk about how it all ended, and like all the madness. Like, what did it take, like, for you to kind of turn the corner and be on the path that you're on at the moment in your own life?
Yeah, that's even a long journey. That's like I said, I'm stubborn. Do you know? And I think I know best. Do you know? That's my natural default. Because of trust, and you know, not feeling like you can't trust people because they'll just abandon you or walk away from you. But I suppose, like, faith for me, to me, was a massive role, because it gave me hope. And like initially it was like through like Victory Outreach, there was a ministry came over around 2009. I was just looking for a way out. Do you know what I mean? A way out of the madness, because like you said, a couple of suicide attempts myself. Do you know, self-harm. Do you know, and like I just wanted a way out of the madness. My life was just after getting really dark and hopeless. And when this crowd Victory Outreach came over from the States at the time, I ended up going in, and you know, they were talking about Christianity, and like what they were talking about, and about Jesus Christ, it gave me a sense of hope. But then, you know, how they were living. And no, this isn't just taking this is just my experience and my perspective. I'm not pointing the finger saying what people do, that's their decisions and their choices. But for me, it just wasn't lining up. So, but I got a taste of something. Remember that taste that I spoke about with the drink, and that like even with the drugs, the coke, the taste. It's like I'm a bit of an explorer. I like I'm known as well that if I find something I like, or something that's nice, I'll try share it with you so that you can partake of that as well. Like a beggar that's telling another beggar where to find bread.
You want other people to feel like you're feeling.
Exactly.
Feel the good
stuff. Exactly. And I remember going in and out of that treatment. So, like, as I said, it was a process. Like, really, for years, like 15 years, I was trapped in it. Just madness. You know, like when I turned 18, you know, the bit prior, I was after losing a finger. Do you know what I mean? Through the madness of addiction. And I remember going into Victory Outreach, ended up leaving after 3 months. Thought I had it all together. Do you know, I don't have an addiction. I just need to get away from the people that. I'll get away from the places. Do you know what I mean? If I can get away from the people and the places, I'd be grand. And
it's amazing. We all think like that.
It's amazing.
I'd be grand once I get over here.
Yeah. The grass is green on the other side.
Forget we have to take our head with us.
Yeah, exactly. And but I was going through this cycle, like, and picked the charges. Now were getting worse as well. I was after picking up a thing for biting a fella's nose. You know, then there was the stabbing. All in the time of me going in and out of treatment. You know, for extended periods of time. Just there was no surrender. You know, like I thought I was grand. I didn't even realize how broken I was. Like, and you're after hearing the story of like everything I'm after sharing with you of you know, my childhood, but I was completely like oblivious or unaware of all that,
how it affected
because
you.
I was so numb emotionally.
You were uneducated as well. You didn't understand. You in that sense. You didn't know.
Right.
You didn't know how a traumatic childhood or adversity in your young life or in your when I say you're not just your young life, but also in your teens, and
Absolutely.
you know how it affects the adult.
Yeah, absolutely. And so like I went through that cycle, and it ended up escalating, ended up getting a 10-year prison sentence with a few years suspended. And I'll be honest with you, it was the best thing that ever happened to me. It was the best thing that ever happened to me, because I think when I went to prison, it was no longer the people.
Yeah.
It was no longer the places. It was now me stuck in a cell with myself.
Yeah.
And that was the start to change. Do you know, I was actually having a look in the mirror. Do you know, and I remember being in Cork, and now again, it was a journey. Like, it was a real journey. Like, I'm so stubborn to be. And I really didn't want to change, and everybody else needs to change, but not me. I'm not the problem.
Yeah.
Do you know, once they all change, everything will be better.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I have to remind myself of that even today. But I can remember even like being in Cork prison, and like I said, like I had a cousin in doing a life sentence. I had other, you know, family members from Waterford now, from my dad's side. You know, they're all in for violent crimes, and this insecurity, this sense of wanting to belong rose up first, and I wanted to be part of what they were doing. And for a while it was grand. Like, I didn't need for anything in the prison, because, you know, they were well respected, and, you know, well, God, everything was grand. So my environment wasn't telling me to change.
Yeah.
And I remember, thank God for my mother. I remember my mum came up on a visit when we were in Cork. I was in the enhanced. I was working in the laundry, and she said, I was talking, you know, about Portlaoise prison. I said, look, I was just after getting sentenced as well. Like, do you know the way it is when you first get your sentence? Like, you just want to, do you want change? Do you know what I mean? You want to be, because you feel trapped almost. Like, you're looking, it can get a bit, despair can kick in a little bit, you know, when you're thinking like you 5-6 years ahead, and like the madness I was caught up in. I was like, man, I just need to get out of here. Yeah. And I remember speaking to my mum on an enhanced visit. I don't know if you know the enhanced visits in Cork, at the round tables, just like this actually.
Yeah, the middle.
Yeah.
Front, yeah.
And my mum said something to me, and it struck me profoundly. Like, she says, Anthony, go up to Portlaoise and find yourself. I was like, okay. Do you ever get that moment when you know they're right? Do you know, it's not what I want to hear, but they're right. Yeah. It's the truth, like. And she said, like, you're never going to be able to find yourself or figure out who you are being around your family. And it's not to say my family, it was me that she was trying to ring true to. Do you know what I mean? I was her son. Like, son, you need to do the right thing. So I ended up transferred to Portlaoise prison, and like, when I was up there, again, I kind of started off, I was still in the madness of Cork prison. So it took me a couple of months to kind of ease out of that a little bit. And I remember there was a Red Cross facilitator at the time on the landing, a lad from Cork. Of course, the affinity there. And I remember being on the landing. It was C1 in Portlaoise at the time. Now, I still had four years left of my sentence. But I remember at the time I was kind of having this internal thing of like, I need to make the most of this. Like, this is too long of a time to not make something out of it.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
And
Intuition there.
and I remember going into this. Can I say his name?
Probably not.
Okay. Yeah.
Probably not.
Okay. Yeah.
No, I'm sure he wouldn't mind.
Yeah. It was just but I won't.
Because you'll be only in your own head afterwards, like.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. So I walked in, he ended up calling me into the cell, and he was in having a cup of tea, and he says, look at me, he says, the Red Cross, he's like, do you know, get involved with them, do you know what I mean? You can grow as a person, do you know, they'll give you opportunity, do you know, to really manage your sentence a little bit better. Because I didn't have a clue. It was my first time in prison. I was had to been extradited from the UK. Do you know, I hadn't got a clue about prison. So I ended up saying, right, I'm going to trust this guy. I took a risk, and I said, I'm going to trust him, because he was saying the Red Cross program is a 6 to 9 month program. It's, do you know, but he says it'll really serve you well. And he says, it'll look very favourably upon you, because let's be honest, we all want to try to get up in prisons, and that was the incentive at the time, and I'm not going to stand there and say that it's not. And I remember going up into the, cause no, there was a couple of different factors here at play, different hooks, as they say, when I was in the prison. So like education, I got involved with as well. I tap back in. It's very important because it tapped back into that young boy, you know, that was doing well in school, but you know, was being ridiculed for being swapped by his friends. Do you know, I was like, but do you get what? Like, now I was being encouraged by teachers because I was doing so well, because my you know, I was doing like getting good grades and stuff. But then the Red Cross program, that was almost allowing me to what I was learning in education and what, you know, working with psychology, pathways to change, you know, the mindfulness, different things like that, like coupling all that together, the holistic, really served me well. But you see, I think what's important to note as well is that I wanted to change now at this point. Do you know what I mean? I wanted to make the most out of this time, and I ended up doing the Red Cross program. And what I felt like at first, like I was thinking like a health-based program in a prison.
Yeah. Mad.
How is this going to benefit anyone? Let's be like, that's what my mentality was. But then getting into it, then, you know, you're going in. It's almost like you're becoming a community developer.
Yeah.
That's almost like they're teaching you such basic tools from a behavior change level that you're beginning to go in and you're going in and you're walking through the landings, doing a transect walk, and you're looking at all the different hazards. No, I'm not going to say there's too many, but you're walking through, and you know, then you're looking at, okay, so what resources are in the prison that we can use to bridge this gap? You can see the neural pathways that are being formed in the brain now, and like, so it's beginning to transform how you perceive yourself and how you view the prison community. Like, as a Red Cross volunteer, I stopped viewing myself as a prisoner, and which is very like dehumanizing, because it's your prison number. I can still tell you today what my prison number is.
2 4 5 5 6
74782.
39,000.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But there you go. There you go. Like, we remember that can become a part of your identity.
It's because it's fucking
drilled into you. Yeah.
It's our identity
A number.
for years. It was the only thing we were labeled.
Yeah.
Like,
Label.
You would label.
Yeah.
That's your number. You're given a number, and you give your number. And that's it. What's your number? And it's not your name. It's not what's your name. It's what's your number.
Yeah.
So your class does is a number.
It's a number. Yeah. It's not even a name. Like, not even an identity. A number. And it's interesting because with the Red Cross, it was it really restored human dignity. It really, you know, focused on the positive. And we were at a conference in UCD last week, and one of the professors said something, and I've always like wondered what's language that we can use to understand what actually happens in the prisons in this country. And a guy, Fergus MacNeil, quoting a Norwegian, I'm not even going to try to pronounce his name, but he spoke about the transformative power of trust. Wow. Like, when I heard that at the conference, I was like, that's exactly what it is. It's people trusting prisoners. You know, to go and do some, trust them that they...
Unbelievable for like...
Unbelievable.
Transformation internally.
Yeah. Yeah.
What the fuck? It's like something that we've never experienced before. And it just enhances everything that we're doing in relation to our own well-being, growth, work, everything. And it allows us to kind of move forward.
Yeah. Because it's, I trust you.
Yeah.
Do you know, I trust you. It's like, wow, big words, big words. Yeah. And like, so the Red Cross program, that became a crucial part of my prison journey. Ended up becoming like trained as a Red Cross facilitator, which tapped into more that, like, you know, public speaking, it just comes naturally to me. And I'm being honest, and like, it just comes naturally once the nerves, because I get very nervous.
We all do.
Yeah, but I get very nervous, you know, because it's the emotional stuff. But that's okay. That's okay. And like, it's about sitting with the emotion, sit with it. Do you know what I mean? Because fear doesn't. I'm not bound by fear anymore. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't dictate my life anymore. And I'm like, even being trained as a Red Cross facilitator. Like, think of from being a powerless prisoner to now being an empowered peer educator that's trusted by the Red Cross to deliver workshops within the prison.
That's powerful.
This changes how...
Yeah, that changes everything. That changes the 360s, everything.
Everything. Complete transformation of the mind.
Whereas you were part of the regime, now you're part of the organisation that's changing the whole regime. That's making sure prisoners are looked at as in people.
Imagine you seeing yourself like that. Imagine the Red Cross volunteers in the prisons right now, seeing themselves like that.
It's powerful shit.
Wow.
and like the rest of your prison journey, did it all flow well?
No, I'll be honest, I struggled at times. And I remember when I was in Portlaoise, like, there was a man, he used to come up and visit me, Christian from, I'm not going to say his name, he knows who he is. And I remember I was inside Portlaoise prison, and I was engaging out with the Red Cross. I was engaging with education. Just managing my sentence the best that I could. And I remember he was coming up to see me every 2 weeks, and really, remember I spoke about like a father, that like I've always longed for a dad. Do you know what I mean? Someone that cared about me, someone that. Do you know what I mean? And I'm at my worst. I'm at my worst in prison. I'm Portlaoise, halfway through my sentence, really broken down. Anyone that's done a sentence knows what I'm talking about. By the time you get like halfway through your actual sentence, it's after kind of stripping you back, and you're having a good look at yourself, and you're seeing all those parts about yourself that you mightn't like. And I remember it was a very, I don't know if defining's the right word. We'll use moments. Can we use the word moments instead? Even back when I was speaking about the kind of moments in your life. But this was a moment that which I believe changed the trajectory of my life. We spoke about Christianity beforehand, about, sometimes, we can think of a man of God as, this fella that's up on a Sunday preaching a message, or, someone out in the streets sharing the gospel. That's one way. I found, I met Christ really in another man.
God came out through him.
And I'll be honest, Jesus speaks about, when were you in prison and we visited you? When were you naked and we had to clothe you? It speaks about Matthew 25, I think it is. And Jesus says, when I was in prison and you visited me. And he's basically, what he's saying is, when you do it unto the least of one of mine, you're doing it unto me. Yeah. I just found, and just that really changed how I looked at myself. And just when this man used to, I've nearly said his name, when this man used to come up and visit me, I had nothing to offer this guy, because we know some churches it can be all about what they can get out of you, use you for your resources, and not with this. I seen something different. I seen genuine love. I seen humility,
compassion.
I seen compassion. I seen the character of Christ in this man, not just the message of Christ. And
that's powerful, yeah.
Yeah,
it's powerful.
And when he used to come up and visit me, like, it was just like, and I wanted a mentor and relationship with him, right? And John Nolly said to me, this is what struck me even more. He said, no, because then it becomes like a hierarchy. He said, I'll just come up as a friend. And a friend is what I needed. That's what I know.
Putting him up on a pedestal, you wouldn't have got what you needed from that relationship.
No, and I'll be honest with you, like, he was coming up to see me, and Timmy, John, know what really struck me? All I had to offer him was my time.
But that's all he was there to give you.
That's all he was there to give me.
That's all he wanted to do, boy.
That is powerful. So when we're talking beforehand about relationships, you can see why I'm so intentional relational investment, because they can be massive hooks that can transform a life, because it's that investment in you, that they believe in you, they care about you, they're going out of their way for you. And like you asked about, was it all smooth sailing? It wasn't. Like I at the time now, like my faith was growing as well when I was inside Portlaoise, and I had an experience, and I don't mind sharing, because like I do walk by faith, and I have a relationship with Jesus Christ, and I'm not ashamed of that. I'm not ashamed. Like
it's changed your life.
Yeah.
Meditation's changed my life.
Yeah.
I'm not ashamed.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what works.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
There's nothing to be ashamed of.
Yeah.
Right. And that's
right.
it.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. And I remember there was a moment, it was around the time that this man was coming up to visit me, and with the chaplain as well. The chaplain in Portlaoise was amazed. All these different people around you, all these different people, because it's a combination of everything. It's a whole world approach around you, isn't it, that brings change. And I remember being in my cell one day, right? I remember I was praying, and I was just meditating on, God being your father, and, and Jesus, and just these different things, just these different ideas. And I was on C4 in Portlaoise prison. Now, for anyone that's been in Portlaoise prison, you look out and you see, from my cell, I could see A block over, and, you could see the army walking around, and there was all, barbed wire around and things like that. It was really maximum security prison. So you know what I'm talking about. Nobody's supposed to get in, nobody's supposed to get out. Yeah. This is the idea, security. Yeah. I remember being inside the cell one day, right? I remember praying, and I just had this sense of closeness. It was like I could sense that there was someone drawn really close to me in there. Do you know what I mean? It was this overwhelming sense of love, compassion, peace, grace, mercy, all of these things that I longed for all my life. I was having that moment in that prison cell. And do you want to know, like, what really kind of, I'm not saying that God spoke to me, but what I really sensed was that I'm in a maximum security prison. And I'm seeing a lot of things myself that I don't like. The things that we don't like to look at. But this isn't able to separate God from being in this prison cell with me.
No. Fuck.
Wow. And like, I didn't understand, and a bit later if we've time, like, even
10 minutes there, just because we've not a guest. And
Right.
Only cut that out after, yeah. Just to let you know.
yeah,
Don't want to rush, you know.
yeah.
It's just we've not a guest outside. She's probably out the corridor.
Perfect.
Sorry, it's my fault for fucking that. We just got immersed into the conversation. I just kind of just kept going.
Yeah. So
No, you were at where being in the cell and just about.
yeah. So just even like, but even that, how like that revelation of like that God, like, is here with me in this cell. Like, I never felt alone since that day.
I actually had a similar experience because I was early on in recovery as well, and it was like I was trying to find a higher power in my life to get me through the
yeah.
day as well.
Yeah.
Very similar to you.
Yeah.
And there was times that I was in that place where I contemplated and taking my life every minute of the day, only that I had one phone call during the day where I could hear the voice of my children and the voice of Nicole, and that gave me hope. Other than that, I would have took my life.
Hope.
I couldn't handle it. I was in so much pain, and I always, even though I'd prayed to God to feel a different way, God was helping me in a different way. He was making me, I was surviving that day. He stopped me from taking my own life. I didn't look at it back then. I got stronger, stronger, and stronger, and stronger, and stronger. Do you know, after completing your sentence, where was your headspace, and what did you want to do with your life?
Yeah. So I'm going to try because this is really important.
Yeah.
So I was struggling with my addiction,
Yeah.
even in Portlaoise towards the end, and even in Locking House, because it was during COVID. I was struggling, battling with my addiction. The last 7 months of my sentence, I went into recovery, found a great NA meeting. Like, there was just only 3 or 4 of us doing NA meetings inside the prison, and it was amazing. It was the first time in my life I could actually get vulnerable and get honest and real with other lads, and they didn't judge me. That was so that was a powerful experience, and that really set the tone for like when my sentence finished. Because even though I was under the impression that, you know, getting involved with the Red Cross and, you know, you'll get out early, I done my sentence to the day.
Yeah.
And, you know, like, but I'm very grateful, you know, for the development as a person and the opportunities that it later gave me, which we'll get to in a minute. But like when I came to the end of my sentence, I remember a probation officer up there at the time, you know, because I was supposed to be getting CRS. There was just a lot of complications, because just because you get your life together doesn't mean that life starts going the way you want it. You know, life happens, and we need to accept it on its own terms. And I remember a probation officer at the time, he was like, you know, Anthony, probation in Cork won't deal with you because, you know, too much reprisals because of the nature of my crime and stuff like that. They were, you know, we've no issue with you, but they said, well, like, we can't account for the human element of the other. And I'll be honest with you, like, that began because of all the work I was already after doing at this stage. Like, I began to see they're actually looking out for me here. Again, another moment. And it was at that moment that he suggested about treatment. And he said, like, it's the last stone that needs to be unturned is around your addiction. And I was after linking him with an addiction counsellor as well up in Locking House, and it was really bringing stuff up. And I was like, oh, I actually need a bit more healing, because I had a lot of trauma that needed to be healed. And I remember making a decision, because I have a daughter, Abby, she's 9. I hadn't seen her in 6 years at that time. And 1st of October 2016, everything fell apart. Like, the end of that month, I was extradited back, done my prison sentence. 5.5 years later, here I am at the end of my prison sentence of February 22. And I had a decision to make, like, what do I do from here? I was at a crossroads in my life. And that's being honest with you. Like, my will was go back down to Cork, Try to get as close as you can to, even though I had no relationship with her. We were in direct contact. And I remember Alex, yeah,
That's
but,
fine.
yeah, but he was manager of Tiglin Men's Centre at the time. And he's like, I don't want to be suggesting about you coming to Tiglin because you're after doing 5.5 years of a prison sentence to commit to 16 months of a program. I don't want to be suggesting, you know, like this needs to come from you. Do you know what I mean? And people, like, I made that decision and, like, believe me, I sacrificed my freedom to get healed. That's what my thing with Tiglin was. I sacrificed my freedom to experience deeper healing within my heart and deal with all the traumatic, all this stuff inside. Do you know all of that? Do you know what I mean? Because I was doing well with the Red Cross. I was doing well, you know, education wise, like different parts of your life. But there's other parts of our lives that can stop us from fulfilling our potential. And it's the deep inner emotional wounds, for me, is what it was. Because deep down inside, I knew, you know, because I was getting the tastes. I was getting a taste of, you know, public speaking. I was getting tastes of facilitating workshops. I was, you know, academically writing essays and, you know, finding your voice as you're writing. But there was the addiction, this dark side of me. And when I made a decision, I committed. I went into Tiglin for 16 months. During that time, like, it became very apparent I had this father wound. And I went through I was going through a lot of stuff in that program because I didn't want to, like, I done a hard program. And not like I was rebellious or stubborn. It's just I worked really, really hard for my 16-month program because I wanted to get well. And I was willing to do whatever it took. I had that moment, that opportunity. Like, the old me that deserved prison, that's what he deserved. And that's where he stayed. It was the new man walked out of those prison walls. Yeah. And I wanted to find out who that new man was. And I had to, that was a long process. And I'm still finding.
It's a lifelong process.
Lifelong process, yeah.
You'll continue to grow it, and it'll just be, you'll come across challenge after challenge after challenge, but each challenge you'll be able for, because the challenge before that got you ready for the next challenge.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean?
And, like, even when I was in Tiglin, like, that whole thing about, and this is where my faith really, like, it was my faith brought the healing, and really dealt with the root, with the fear and the shame. Like, I remember getting a real deep sense of, you know, God being my father. Just read, like, it unfolded in the prison cell. And that, like, but it really developed and unfolded further when I was in Tiglin. Like, and I remember, you know, it was around the unforgiveness with my dad, and I didn't realise, like, unforgiveness can be the very lock that prevents us from blessing, like, from experiencing fullness of the life that we want to live. And it's a chain. It doesn't hold them back. It holds you back. And I didn't realise until I was inside Tiglin, there was a couple of words came up, like father wound, and then we were in another session another day, and they spoke about, you know, just because someone has passed away, because my dad passed away back in 2004, I was 12. And just because someone has passed away, it doesn't mean that you can't forgive them.
True.
I was like,
that's so true.
That changed it. And then I knew, okay, this is what I need to do next. I need to forgive my dad. Do you know, for what? He didn't know better.
He didn't, but
he didn't know better. And we're after finishing where we're after starting. He didn't know any better. And, you know, like, even with my own daughter, and, like, when I speak about the character of Christ and I speak about God and his nature, like, he's taught me how to be a father to my own daughter now. And on the 1st of October 2022, remember the 1st of October 2016? 1st of October 2022 is when the relationship between me and my daughter was reconciled.
That's powerful, man. Right.
Do you know?
And how is your life today? What are you doing with your life?
It's amazing. Yeah, so, yeah. Wow.
It's mad to look at it, isn't it? Just to see the changes.
Like. Wow. Yeah. Hope. It's,
living without fear.
Yeah. Wow. And it is, that's what life, when you say about a fulfilled life, that's what it looks like. It's not this big successful, you know, money. No. And it's I'm not bound.
Peace.
I'm not bound by this thing that kept me trapped for years. But I can walk in freedom. Do you know what I mean? Knowing that I have authority over that now. And that I can walk out the life that I want to live. That's freedom.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I have freedom to make the choices I want to make today. And one of those choices was, as you know, a job opportunity opened up at the Red Cross the time. Like, job opened up in September last year as lead facilitator with the Prison to Community project. And like, I've been doing that since, and it's just, it's the dream. Honestly, it's an absolute dream to be able to be given back into the prisons and into probation service, you know, and inspiring others. You know, I'm a firm believer. I'm a firm believer that, you know, hope, you know, once hope becomes a person, it's no longer intangible, but it becomes a reality.
And it's a reality for other people to see it.
Exactly.
And that's where change comes.
That's where change comes.
You know,
because we're creating to me, Tommy, you're doing the same. You're creating paths for others, footprints. They're no longer seeing signboard. They're seeing footprints. They're like, I can see that if he can do it, I can do it.
Yeah.
Because we just, like, people can identify with our stories, and that
100%.
your story doesn't mean that that's the way you need to stay.
Yeah.
Do you know, like, and it's such a privilege and such an honor, honestly, to be able to share. And
Do you know what, Andy? We're privileged to have it, share your story.
Powerful
You know?
story.
And to see how far you came, because I relate to a lot of the stuff that you spoke about. I mean, Tommy, you know that yourself, a lot of it, like as you spoke about the anger, the rage, not fitting in, the lack of connection, all that stuff. I felt fucking completely mad stuff. Like, I could relate to father stuff. I could relate to everything you were talking about, you know, and to see you here now and can see the change in you, the way you're smart. Change. Other people can see change through their own change. Like, I can see the change in you because I've changed, and I can hear it in your language. I can see it in your energy, your face. I can see it, you know, and that's change. And that's what other people need to see. That they'll see it before, they see it now, and they say, holy fuck, I want what he has. And that's it. And that's what we do, and that's what we're here to do.
Yeah.
You know, and we love doing it, you know. And Anthony, thanks so much, boy, for coming on and sharing your story. I'm so happy that I met you, and glad that you said you'd come on and share your story, you know. And listen, if anyone is like listening, and like, people change their lives, people change. We move on from stuff that we've done before, you know. We're apologetic, you know. We fucked up. We do things that we actually don't even understand. I fucked up, Tommy fucked up, you fucked up. We've all done our own thing, you know. But today we're not doing those things, and we're fucking trying to live a life.
But I have one last thing before.
Yeah.
The probation officer, when I was in Lock and House, he said something to me. Because obviously we you know, we can have a lot of unresolved feelings of guilt and shame because of things that we've done. And John know what he said to me, because I was speaking about restorative justice and, you know, wanting to sit down with people that I've harmed and like, say, look, I'm sorry, like. And John know what he said to me. He said, Anthony, he said, the greatest thing that you can do, and the greatest way you can say sorry for what you've done, is how you live the rest of your life.
Powerful. And that's how you live the rest of life for you. Maybe people are still hurt, and some people don't have the same kind of forgiveness or are not in a place to forgive. And I had to learn that in my own life with some of the stuff that I've done, you know. But I still have to keep going.
Yeah.
I have to keep going. So, Anthony, thanks so much, boy, for joining us.
Thanks so
Tommy.
much, lads.
Thank you, and Tony. Once again, thanks a million, boy. Fuck it. Thanks to everybody for listening. And listen, I hope people got a lot from Anthony's story tonight. I know I did, and it was a pleasure here sitting with him and sharing it. And listen, from the three of us, the four of us here, we wish everybody well. And Slán, and God bless. Bye-bye.